They look perfect: Jack, the charismatic lawyer who never loses a case, and Grace, his beautiful, elegant wife who's always by his side. But behind the locked doors of their picture-perfect home lies a nightmare. In B, Paris's chilling thriller, nothing is what it seems. And escape isn't just difficult, it's impossible. Grace Harrington, angel, elegant, poised, and perfectly composed. That's how Grace appears on the outside. But behind her calm demeanor is a woman trapped, calculating, and desperate. At 33, she gave up her high-powered job as a buyer for Harrods to become the perfect housewife. She seems to have it all: beauty, talent, and the most charming husband imaginable. But nothing about her life is as it seems. Jack Angel, a successful, handsome lawyer known for defending battered women in court, a man with an impeccable reputation, grace, and charm. To the outside world, he is the perfect gentleman. But behind closed doors, Jack is something else entirely: controlled, sadistic, and terrifyingly brilliant. Jack doesn't just want a wife, he wants total ownership. And he knows how to get it. Millie Harrington, Grace's younger sister. She has Down syndrome, a love of George Clooney, or rather, a hate for him, and an infectious joy for life. Grace has promised her a home, safety, happiness, and love when she finishes school. But Jack has other plans. For Millie, and for Grace. Diane and Adam, friends of Jack and Grace, and one of the few recurring couples in their social circle. Diane is bubbly and eager to please. Adam works in the same law firm as Jack. They represent the kind of couple Grace and Jack pretend to be normal. Esther and Rufus, new neighbors. Esther is sharp, reserved, and observant, a woman who doesn't take people at face value. Rufus is more easygoing. Esther quickly becomes the one person Grace knows might see through Jack's perfect mask. If she's not too late. Janice, Millie's trusted carer at school. Kind, protective, and one of the only adults Grace knows she can rely on. Jack knows it too. The champagne clinks softly against the marble countertop. Grace jumps. She doesn't mean to, but Jack notices everything. He smiles, soft and knowing. Perfect, he says. Grace tries to smile back. Tonight is important. Their new neighbors, Esther and Rufus, are coming to dinner. The illusion must be flawless. They walk through their beautiful home, one Jack picked as her wedding present, and enter the cozy sitting room. A fire burns. The room glows with warmth and luxury. Their guests compliment the house. Grace smiles. She knows her lines. Esther doesn't smile back. It unsettles Grace. Most women coo over her life. The paintings, the decor, the marriage. Esther watches quietly, withholding judgment. It's clear she's not convinced. Not yet. As Grace hands her the chocolates Esther brought, she moves fast, not wanting Jack to take them instead. Tiny choices like that matter more than anyone could guess. Jack, ever the showman, pours champagne. Their friends praise Grace's cooking, her art, especially the red painting above the fireplace called Fireflies. Jack tells everyone she painted it herself. Grace feels her nerves calm slightly. Until the questions begin. Esther's voice cuts through the room, calm and polite. You don't have children, do you? No, not yet. Grace answers, voice light. We thought we'd enjoy a couple of years on our own first. It's the script Jack taught her. They talk about how they met in Regent's Park, dancing with Millie. Jack looked like a dream. Charming, gallant, and kind. The way he danced with her sister melted Grace's heart. Jack tells it like a fairy tale. The room swoons. Esther doesn't. She watches. Grace feels it, that suspicion, that doubt. But she says nothing. She knows what's at stake. They talk about Millie, about how she has Down syndrome and is soon moving in with them. Esther raises an eyebrow. That's very generous of you, she says to Jack. Jack shrugs modestly. She's going to be our family. Of course she'll live with us. He glances at Grace. Right, darling? Grace nods. Of course. That was the deal. That's what drew her in. She thought she'd found the one man in the world who would love Millie as much as she did. The dinner continues. The food is perfect: soufflé, beef Wellington, a fruit pavlova that looks like something out of a magazine. Grace calculates every second, every movement. Jack doesn't tolerate failure. Later, Jack asks Grace to show Esther the photo album from their last Thailand trip. The pictures are beautiful. Grace, tanned and smiling. Jack, attentive and loving. Everything is posed, perfect, controlled. Esther doesn't say much. She flips through the album, eyes sharp. As their guests leave, Esther agrees to meet for lunch. with Grace and Diane the following Friday. Grace smiles. I'm looking forward to it. But she already knows. She won't be going. Behind the locked doors of their beautiful home, Grace's world is nothing but a gilded cage. She lives in fear, in silence, in total control of Jack. She has no phone, no freedom, no access to money. Even the clothes she wears are chosen by him. Their perfect marriage? A performance. After the wedding, Jack changed. He became someone else entirely. It started on their honeymoon when he locked her in the hotel room for the first time. And no reason. Just to prove he could. When they returned home, Grace realized the house wasn't a gift. It was a prison. There's no way to leave. The windows are sealed with steel shutters. The security system is state-of-the-art and only Jack knows the codes. If she disobeys, there are consequences. Not just for her, but for Millie. Jack doesn't want a wife. He wants a possession, a prisoner. And the worst part, he's waiting for Millie to move in. It began so perfectly. 18 months ago, Grace was just another woman in a London park, watching her younger sister dance to a Sunday band. Millie, arms outstretched, was twirling, lost in music. Some people smiled, others stared. And then, out of nowhere, Jack appeared. He bowed like an old-fashioned gentleman, held out his hand, and danced with Millie. People clapped. Grace's heart melted. He was handsome, polite, generous, and instantly seemed to accept Millie without judgment. She had met men before, none like Jack. Over tea they talked. Jack said he was a lawyer. He was kind to Millie, gentle. He asked Grace out for dinner, and that was the beginning. 3 months later, Jack proposed. It was sudden, unexpected, romantic. They stood in the same park, near the same bandstand where it all began, and Jack slipped a beautiful diamond onto her finger. Wherever we live, he said, there will always be a place for Millie. That was all Grace needed to hear. Planning the wedding was a blur. Jack took care of most of it: the venue, the guest list, the house. The house was his wedding gift. Grace never saw it until they returned from the honeymoon, and the honeymoon was when everything changed. The first few hours were bliss. A luxury hotel, a gorgeous view. But that first night, he didn't touch her. Instead, Jack smiled and locked the bedroom door. The next morning, Grace asked him why. He said nothing, and did it again. Each day, she became more confused, then frightened. On the third day, he left her locked inside while he went sightseeing. She screamed, banged on the walls, tried to get help from the balcony until he came back, calm and cold. He made her apologize. She had embarrassed him, he said, and so it began. When they returned home, Grace finally saw the house Jack had bought. It was beautiful, grand, set far from town, private, and built like a fortress. The windows had steel shutters. The security system was complex. The basement had thick doors. She thought it was about safety. She was wrong. It was about control. There were no keys, no codes, nothing Grace could use to get out. Her phone disappeared. Her job was already gone. Friends slowly faded. Jack made sure of it. It first. She tried to fight. She screamed, cried, refused to eat. But Jack had already anticipated that. He didn't beat her. He didn't even touch her. He simply waited until she broke. And when she did, he reminded her, Millie. That was the worst part. Jack didn't want Grace just for himself. He wanted Millie. He was obsessed with fear, with control, with watching someone panic. And Millie, sweet Millie with her trusting heart. She was next. Grace was horrified. Jack said it calmly, like discussing a vacation. Once Millie moved in, he would take her room, keep her locked away, use her fear to satisfy his twisted needs. He wouldn't touch her, not in that way, but he'd frighten her, hurt her, control her, and Grace would watch. Unless she did exactly as he said, Grace learned quickly: obey, smile, pretend. She cooked perfect meals, kept the house pristine, dressed exactly how Jack liked in cream, beige, soft colors, no boldness, no resistance. If she failed, he punished her, not with bruises, not in a way that anyone could see, but by taking Millie away, canceling a visit, threatening never to let Grace see her again. So Grace smiled for friends, charmed the neighbors, kissed her husband in public, behind closed doors. She lived minute to minute, waiting for a chance. Esther wasn't fooled. The dinner party, she asked questions no one else dared ask. Why Grace gave up such a high-flying job at Harrods, why she never seemed to go anywhere alone, why she didn't seem as happy as she looked. Jack answered each one perfectly. Grace smiled on cue, but Esther kept watching, her pale blue eyes, calculating, cold, smart. Grace saw it, and for the first time in months, she felt something dangerous, hope. Jack allowed Grace to see Millie once a month, only under his supervision. He even controlled where they went, never the hotel Millie loved, always somewhere he could observe them, control the scene. On one trip, Millie asked why they couldn't go to the hotel. Jack smiled and changed the subject. Later, in the car, Millie whispered something to Grace. Jack doesn't like hotels, does he? Grace smiled and nodded, silent, but she knew Millie saw more than Jack realized. That scared her more than anything, because Millie was running out of time. Millie's favorite color was yellow. So Grace asked for a yellow bedroom in their dream house. Jack agreed. He designed it and built it, but Grace would later learn it wasn't a bedroom. It was a prison cell. In the basement. No windows, just cold stone walls, and soundproofed. Grace found it one day unlocked, empty, prepared. That was the moment she knew he was serious. He was waiting, and one day soon, Millie would be here. Jack liked to dangle hope. He pretended to offer Grace a way out if she agreed to leave Millie behind. He said she could fly away, start fresh, forget the past. She almost believed him, until she saw the papers, fake documents. No passport, no real escape, just another trick, another lesson. Jack wanted her to try, so he could punish her for it. Grace stopped trying. On the outside, inside, she began to plan. Grace tried, many times, to escape. She whispered for help once at the grocery store, but the cashier didn't hear. She once left a note in a friend's coat pocket during a dinner party, only to find it returned to her the next day, unopened, placed on her pillow. Jack had found it first. He always did. She even wrote to Millie's headmistress once, asking for help. But the envelope disappeared before it left the house. Jack's reach was everywhere, his control absolute. She learned hope was dangerous, but without it, she had nothing. Esther didn't stop watching. A tea lunch with Grace and Diane, she asked too many questions again. Why didn't Grace drive? Why didn't she carry a phone? Why did she always seem so rehearsed? Grace deflected, laughing off the questions. Diane didn't notice, but Esther did. And when she invited Grace for coffee the next week, alone, Grace almost said yes, almost. But Jack was always listening. That night, Jack locked Grace in the bedroom again. He said nothing, just clicked the door shut, and left. She curled up in the dark, cold bed, and silently swore to survive. The date was set. Millie was turning 18 in a few weeks. She'd be moving in shortly after. Jack made it sound like a celebration. He decorated her yellow room, prepared her wardrobe, bought her books, puzzles, soft pillows. But Grace knew better. That room had no windows, only a camera, a bolt on the outside. No escape, just fear. Millie trusted Jack. She laughed at his jokes. She didn't understand what was coming, but Grace did. She had to act now. One day, while Jack was away in court, Grace found something, a journal, red leather, hidden in a locked drawer. Jack forgot to relock it. Inside, she found records, cold, clinical notes about his previous cases. But they weren't legal notes. They were trophies, descriptions of abused women, their fear, their panic. He had loved it, not defending them but watching them crumble. It was never about justice. It was about power, about control. She read about how he'd manipulated judges, coached witnesses, even framed husbands. Jack was worse than she imagined. He didn't just imprison Grace, he destroyed lives. Grace realized something that night. Jack wasn't perfect. He was arrogant, careless, certain no one could outsmart him. He never thought Grace would fight back. That was his weakness. She started planning. Not escape. Not yet, but something deeper. She watched how he operated. When he left the house, when he checked the shutters, what he drank, what time he slept. She studied him like prey. She began storing food in secret dry crackers, hidden behind cookbooks. She trained her body to need less sleep, less food. She grew stronger, quieter. Millie's arrival was days away. Grace had one chance, and she'd rather die than let him touch her sister, Esther, always watching, always questioning. At the next dinner party, she notices something again. Jack interrupts Grace. Too quickly, He answers questions for her. He watches her eat, watches how much wine she drinks, how much she speaks. Esther doesn't say anything, but she doesn't smile either. Later, when Grace tries to casually suggest they walk to the garden, Esther agrees. Too fast. Jack sees it, and the very next day, he takes Grace's garden privileges away. Too much fresh air, he says with a smile. Not good for fragile nerves. He blames another migraine. Diane believes him. Esther doesn't. Grace knows now she has to act before Esther gets closer. If Jack feels threatened, he'll kill. Millie's move-in day is coming. Grace sees the signs. Jack sharpens the plan, showing her the yellow room again, the locks, the audio system, the medication sedatives he's hiding in the cupboard. To help Millie sleep, he says. He even tests the lights, the timer, the alarms. Grace smiles, nods, plays along. She congratulates him on how thoughtful he's being. She's never more convincing than when she's terrified. At night, she practices unlocking the bedroom door in total darkness, eyes closed. In the kitchen, she begins drugging Jack's wine. A drop at a time. Not enough to knock him out. Not yet. She's building his tolerance. So when she delivers the real dose, he won't see it coming. Grace's plan is delicate. One mistake, and it's over. Millie's next visit, she finds a moment alone with her sister, just long enough to pass a message. It's hidden in her favorite Agatha Christie audiobook case. Inside, Grace has written a single line: "Pretend you're sick the day you're supposed to move in." Millie's eyes widen, but she nods. Grace feels something rare. Hope. Jack doesn't notice, but Grace knows. The clock is ticking. The night before Millie is due to move in, Jack sleeps easily. He thinks everything is under control. He pours himself a glass of whiskey. Grace watches. She waits until he finishes half. Then, she offers him a second. This time, the dose is real. He drinks it all. He yawns, and 30 minutes later, collapses in bed. Grace waits a full hour. Then, she moves. She's rehearsed every step in silence. Unlock the bedroom door. Downstairs. Quiet. Get her hidden bag. Turn off the alarm. She grabs the phone and calls. Esther. Esther doesn't answer. Grace tries again, and again. Still nothing. Then, a voice. Jack's voice. From the stairs. "You didn't think I'd fall for that, did you?" He's awake. Smiling. The glass had no drugs. He knew. He switched the bottles. Grace backs up, cornered, heart pounding. She reaches for the only weapon she has, the heavy, metal candle holder on the table. Jack laughs. "Do it," he says. "I dare you." And she does. She swings. Hard. The sound cracks through the air. Jack falls. Blood pools on the floor. When Jack doesn't show up for work, questions begin. Adam calls. Diane too. Esther comes to the door. Grace opens it. Calm, composed, she tells them Jack is away on urgent business. The Toe Mason case, always a great excuse. Inside, Jack lies in the basement, unconscious, alive, barely. Grace feeds him just enough water, keeps the lights on 24/7, keeps him weak, helpless. Millie never moves in. Instead, Grace calls the police. She frames it perfectly. Jack's journal, his notes, his behavior, her bruises. She tells them everything. And when they ask to search the house, they find the yellow room, the locks, the audio tapes, the pictures. Jack is arrested. The headlines explode. Human rights lawyer kept wife captive in luxury prison. Champion of abused women charged with psychological torture. Esther comes back. One more time. You did it, didn't you? She says softly. You stopped him. Grace doesn't answer. She just smiles. Months later, Grace and Millie sit in the garden of a small country house. The air is quiet. The sun is warm. Grace is finally free. Millie laughs at the birds, holding her favorite yellow cushion. They drink lemonade. And when Grace looks over at her sister, she knows. She did the unthinkable. She became a monster to stop a worse one, and she would do it again, without hesitation, because now, the doors are open, and the fear is gone.